Oh, we got some breaking news in the show business world.
All right. Okay. I'm getting a nerd out. I'll get to do this a lot. So, breaking news. This news broke in Puck magazine overnight. Kathleen Kennedy to step down at Lucasfilm. Wow. Wow. It's happening. After years of speculation and polite urging from observers like me, Kathleen Kennedy has informed Disney, as well as friends and associates, that she will exit as Lucasfilm president by the end of the year, per 3 sources. Disney and Kennedy's personal publicist declined to comment. Not a huge shock, of course. Kennedy will be 72 in June, and the legendary movie producer, this guy's a simp, by the way, will have run Lucasfilm for 13 years as George Lucas's hand-picked steward under Disney. Kathy was actually planning to leave last year, I'm told, and had even set up an exit interview with a journalist, but she decided to stay for one more year. She was like, I think there's still like a smidgen of life left in these franchises that I haven't snuffed out, but one more year, I bet I could make every last person never want to see a Star Wars or Indiana Jones movie again. And she pulled it off. Kennedy has been telegraphing her exit lately, selling her and her husband Frank Marshall's Malibu house, offloading art, and talking to friends about working with Frank more. She's also been collecting career honors from everyone from the Austin Film Festival to the American Society of Cinematographers to this week's Oscar Wilde Awards in LA. I wonder why everyone's turning their back on institutions, Hollywood. There's like Kamala just got an award. What did she get an award for? Lighting $1 billion on fire and turning the country over to Trump. It's very similar. Why would you give this woman an award? She destroyed these bulletproof, most valuable creative IPs in the world. Departing this year will allow a successor to handle the 2026 release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm going on the record right now. That movie is going to way underperform. The first Star Wars movie since 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. This year, she's only got the second season of Andor, which will likely be an Emmy contender. The trailer looks good, and some kid stuff on Disney+. Now, like I said, this guy's a simp. I don't know about Emmy contender. I did like season 1 of Andor. I thought that was good. Who might Disney film chief Alan Bergman choose as Kennedy's successor? Dave Filoni would be the top internal candidate, I'd surmise, assuming Jon Favreau has little interest. This is Swingers Jon Favreau, not Pod Save Jon Favreau.
Right.
Although that could be a very interesting choice.
Right.
Who else? Let the speculation throughout the Hollywood galaxy begin. So there was, as you would imagine, a very emotional reaction to this announcement at Lucasfilm Studios. Let's take a look. So they were in tears over there about this turn of events. Very sorry to see her go. So there's a lot of speculation about what did it. Did she choose to leave? Is she being pushed? Very much like with Scientology, nobody really had a handle on Scientology. All the media was afraid to really go after Scientology until South Park did their iconic Tom Come Out of the Closet episode. Very similarly, they did this infamous episode, put a chick in it and make her gay. Some people think that might have had something to do with it. We actually have that sound drop.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
That's right. Immortalized.
Some people think it might have been Elon's constant harassment. He tweeted this. This was kind of a reference to the South Park episode. Excited to join Disney as their chief DEI officer. Can't wait to work with Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy to make their content more woke, even the linguini.
Notice the date, April Fool's Day. That was his April Fool's post.
That was his April Fool's post. And the linguini thing is a reference to that episode because she says she wants a lame gay chick in the linguini in the episode. And then in June, he followed up. Elon Musk slams Lucasfilm boss for killing Star Wars with woke propaganda more deadly than the Death Star. Now, this could be a possibility because, Iger did actually go to Mar-a-Lago and bend the knee. So the idea that Iger might have sat her down and said, listen, you got to go. You're killing us. The longer you stay here, the more Elon's going to tweet, and he's basically tells Trump what to do. You got to go. It's possible. Now, funny enough, the best commentary I found, the real nerd channels haven't had a chance really yet because this just broke. Barstool Sports. This is not what's his name himself, but this is Jerry Thornton.
Portnoy. You're thinking
Portnoy. Yeah, this is not Portnoy. He only covers pizza. But
pizza and football.
You know what? This was a surprisingly balanced article because he talked about, all the rage that a lot of the fans have saying that she made it too woke. And he doesn't completely dismiss that, but he makes an excellent point that I would say is closer to the mark. To my way of thinking, what she's really been guilty of all along is making lousy movies and TV shows. The problem with the Star Wars sequels made on her watch isn't so much that she built them around the Rey character, it's that they suck. Rey is boring. She has zero character arc. They put her in the exact same situation as Luke Skywalker, but removed all the motivations, challenges, setbacks, losses, and personal growth, and skipped right to the part where she's awesome and has amazing magical powers that no evil can overcome. This is the hero's journey he's describing. Then at the end, you do the hero's journey, but take out all the conflict and make it all about finding out how awesome you are. Then at the end of the trilogy, just threw Palpatine back in and made it so he was raw dogging Rey's granny back in the day. That's less about forcing a socio-political agenda into your movie about space wizards than it is about just awful storytelling and not having the slightest idea why the source material resonated with literally billions of people over the last 4 decades. On top of that, she's developed a nasty habit of taking some of the great fictional heroes of the 20th century, turning them into bitter, cynical, misanthropic loners and deadbeat dads. And I got to say, that's part of what really bothers me as a bitter, cynical, misanthropic loner and deadbeat dad. I have not appreciated the slam on those types. Then replace them with plucky, resourceful, indefatigable young females. First with Han Solo and Luke with Rey, then Indiana Jones with what's her name. Instead of, I don't know, making an original story about an original, plucky, resourceful, indefatigable young female protagonist. But this is what Hollywood does now. Stands on the shoulders of giants like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and hopes some film studies majors can repurpose their inspired ideas into something passably entertaining and profitable. I think that is, as my erstwhile co-host might say, I think that is very well said. Exactly. It's not that you couldn't diversify these leads. It's not that you needed to keep. I mean, you go back and you watch like the original Star Wars now. Yeah, man, it's like it was made by the Aryan Brotherhood. Yeah, sure. Like, it's not that you need to keep doing like the white, blonde, blue-eyed protagonist, but instead of just creating new original characters who don't fit that definition, they hijacked all of these beloved properties. And to make matters worse, the writing was terrible. They just decided if you're trying to elevate a female character, you can't give her flaws, which makes for very boring and frankly condescending storytelling. And we had female original heroes like Buffy that all the nerds loved. all the same nerds that love Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all that shit. They all loved Buffy. They all loved Angel, which had these strong female heroes and protagonists. It's just that they inserted ideology with the assumption that they didn't actually have to make a good movie. They didn't actually have to follow the basic rules of screenwriting. So he called out a few receipts in this article that are worth noting. Some of her lowlights. There was her decision to fire one of her stars over some tweets proving that the Force isn't all that female. Of course, referring to the Gina Carano firing, which got a lot of fan backlash. Terribly misguided creative decisions that have fans hating or outright ignoring the very IP they used to love. Disney's The Acolyte has a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than the worst show in TV history, the Star Wars Holiday Special. So I had to look this up. All right. So The Acolyte and this right here, you want to see the difference between cultural elites and actual people. 78% critics rating, which I got to say is low for something that went so far out of its way to push all the woke buttons. 19% from the audience, whereas the Star Wars Holiday Special, the famous Holiday Special, 25% from critics and 25% from the audience. Now, that's kind of fair because the Holiday Special, on some level, it's so bad it's good. So I could see that getting it the extra 6 points. Anyone who has not seen it, it's in full on YouTube. One of the worst business decisions in recent memory. Now, this is the, the Galactic Cruiser. So the idea of this hotel was I think it was like $5,000 a night. And you would have the experience of the hotel is on a starship. Supposedly the experience was terrible. It was badly conceived. It was badly run. And also running through all of the Star Wars concepts, because Kennedy was making these decisions, she wanted to elevate the trilogy that she was responsible for. So all the content was based in the Rey trilogy, which no one gives a shit about, rather than the classic trilogy, which is much more what people would want to experience. Took up to a $300 million loss on the Galactic Star Cruiser. And while I'm really nitpicking here, someone on Kennedy's watch approved of a scene where toddler Leia outran 3 grown henchmen. Yes, that happened in the Obi-Wan series. If anyone has not seen it, it's best watched with yakety sax under it. And another classic scene there. And followed that up with a scene where Obi-Wan snuck her out of a heavily guarded Imperial fortress under his comically oversized coat like Austin Powers. Yes, that was a real scene in that show. That's quite a legacy to leave behind, taking IPs that were indestructible and somehow managing to destroy them is a feat unto itself. The kind of thing it took the entire Rebel Alliance to do, and Kathleen Kennedy did it virtually all by herself. And I, for one, cannot wait to hear all the dirt that's going to come out about how it all happened. Stay tuned. Very much so. So, of course, the nerd channels jumped on this. Critical Drinker finally run out of franchises to destroy Kathy. Our friend Gary at Nerderotic is skeptical that this is going to happen. For the 5th consecutive year, Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm. It eventually has to be true. I think this one is true. Kathleen Kennedy's tenure at Lucasfilm shows us what happens when you try to make art out of spite and hatred. Her work over the decade has been little more than performative malice against the Western mythos and the men who built it. Just a miserable body of work. Now, I gotta say, this poster had a pretty good rejoinder to a lot of these channels. Rage bait YouTube channels, now that they can't put Kathleen Kennedy in their thumbnails.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's Donald Trump working the fries at McDonald's. I've mentioned that already, that a lot of these channels are in a lot of trouble now because they won. They won. They and, the whole society the backlash is here now.
Right.
Their whole content is all about hating Kathleen Kennedy and figures like Kathleen Kennedy and Rachel Zegler and Disney and woke content and woke in the games industry and uglifying females and killing Batman. That's their whole channel content. All that's going away, and it's going away fast. The best of them with the most solid audience base, like Nerdrotic, like the Critical Drinker, they'll survive. They can transition to being fan channels that just have positive takes. All of these satellite channels, they're in trouble. I'm seeing them. Some of them are trying to transition to covering politics from the same angle.
Right.
They're trying to get into the libs lose their mind because Trump said they're trying to get
be
into
the next
that.
Tim Pool. They don't know that lane's already pretty crowded.
That's already a pretty crowded lane. So a lot of these guys, like this is just one more example of they're about to run out of content.
Well, yeah, the worst thing you can do when you're fighting a culture war is win. That's the worst thing you could do is win a culture war. Winning a culture war is terrible because the culture war is an outrage grift. That's what a culture war is. So the worst thing you can do when you're running a grift is bring it to an end. And the best way to bring that to an end is to win. Right? That's what happened to the liberals, right? They basically won the culture war with the, Supreme Court ruling in favor of nationwide gay marriage. And, then they took it to a place that invited a backlash. And so, once you win, that's the worst place you could be in if you profit off of fighting a culture war. In terms of Disney, in terms of the Lucasfilm, in terms of the output, there was a video that we almost covered on the show of Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, and she's the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, talking about how now people are getting cast in movies or not cast depending on the amount of social media followers they have, which is the merging of art with content, right? The democratization of content in many ways has led to the degradation of art. And so I wouldn't expect movies to really get much better. If you notice, like the Oscars this year, almost all the nominated movies are movies that very few people have ever heard of. I mean, Dune 2 got nominated, but The Brutalist, who's heard of that? Anora, who's heard, like a lot of these movies no one has ever heard of. Because the only stuff worth watching are, those rare sort of indie gems that come, every so often. And I'm not even saying these movies are those. They're just the best in a year where obviously the state of Hollywood is in total shambles. And so, I don't think this is going to reverse that trend. But it is an indication that a certain culture war has been largely ended, which is the worst thing for those who are fighting it.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, they're going to have to compete for those McDonald's jobs with a lot of government workers now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Winning.
That's right.
Please clap.